there's nothing like cracking that cellophane and pulling that record out. It just smells great.
Welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Non-stop hardcore energy.
I love the show, guys. You're awesome.
Unlike any other.
With your host, John the Bod, a.k.a. the Bod Father.
Man, this stuff rocks.
This is Terry LeRoi from LeRoi XIII, and you're listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
The views and opinions of the guests do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of BODS Mayhem Radio Network, its staff, affiliates, or sponsors. Parental discretion is advised. Welcome to BODS Mayhem Radio Network.
Hey everybody, welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour. I am your host, John the Bod, a.k.a. the Bod Father, and as always, I'm bringing you guys and gals awesome interviews. Today, it's an honor and a privilege to welcome back Mr. Terry LeRoi, a.k.a. Granny, vocalist of Granny 4Barrel. And Granny 4Barrel is back with their new single since 2019 entitled The Art of Deception. And we're going to be talking to Terry about all this good stuff. So Terry, man, welcome back to the show, and how you been?
John, man, doing great, buddy. Thanks for having me back.
Not a problem.
Doing great. How you doing? How's things?
Doing awesome. Glad to have you back on the show, and glad to see some Granny 4Barrel stuff back out right now, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah, we had a little bump in the road in 2020, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, everybody did.
How excited are you to hopefully get back out on the road and start the tour soon? Because I know some things are opening back up right now. I
mean, I'm as excited as a person could be, an entertainer, that's what we do. Been talking to, the publicist and management and just tossing around some ideas, speaking to some agents, promoters, hoping to, even start maybe by the fall of this year, but certainly 2022, we'll be out and about. But yeah, I'm excited, man. I'm anxious. I'm ready to go.
Did you find yourself doing anything differently during the pandemic other than working on music, such as getting back to your collections that you do maybe, or catch up on anything possibly? I
really just spent more time with music. We started that collaboration. I don't know if you had heard about that, LeRoi XIII, which was the collaborative efforts with Will and Troy from Evanescence. We had Aaron Pauley from A Voice of Men, and we did a Ronnie James Dio tribute, and we donated the proceeds to charity. So that was something that happened, and that's kind of taken on a life of its own, that collaboration, and we're about to do more songs with a different lineup this time. So in more writing, just really spent a lot of time just taking a step back, because for years I've just been in music, and there's always a show. There's kind of this cycle that happens, and it was like, okay, hit the pause button, and let's just we got some time here. What do we want to do now? Oh, I want to spend more time writing. I want to do things like that collaboration, and I also have my jewelry company, my body jewelry company that I've had for years. Spent more time working, on that, and. Yeah, so it was actually it was a blessing for me in a lot of ways, because it was someone above me with the power to say, hey, it's time for a timeout. The government says everything's shutting down. So if I'm left to my own devices, I'm a workaholic and I never stop. But somebody finally said, hey, everybody stops.
Yeah.
And I was okay with that.
Do you kind of find this as a blessing? I mean, I know you mentioned it as a blessing and being musicians and working on more music, but I'm kind of anxious to see how much music comes out after this pandemic, because I've talked to a lot of musicians and they said they have tons of stuff that's ready to come out.
Yeah, I believe that's what's going to happen. Let's see the fruits of everyone's labors. You guys all had a year off. What's up?
Yeah.
What do you got for us?
Yeah, exactly. The character of Granny is inspired by horror movies, villains, and anti-heroes. If you take a closer look inside, there's psychological components to her in this alter ego that goes in depth, actually. So is Granny your evil horror side, or that person you would like to be in another realm? Does she say what you need to say in your music, possibly?
Yeah, it's very much an alter ego. It's very strange to me that someone would say, hey, but I'm a strange person. Hey, what's your alter ego? You know, some people are like, oh, it's this, and I'm like, yeah, it's a crazy old woman, horror based, but it's very much, it is horror based. So I really relate to the split personality of Norman Bates. I relate to it. I love that movie, and Granny has that element in it. So I feel like I can be like the serious rock guy and have serious themes and just have that, I guess that presentation of that. I've always been in like quote serious metal bands. And this band is very serious, but it's in a different way. It has a theatrical edge to it that I like, and I just enjoy it. I just enjoy the way that it feels. The audience seems to love it. It started out as my band at the time. So Granny's been around 10 years, John. It's been a while. Granny's been through the mill. She's gone through all different sorts of configurations. But it started out as a Halloween show that I played with my band at the time, Titanium Black. And I've had this alter ego character kicking around. It's based on a cartoon character that I've been drawing as well for years and years. And, you know, the night of the Halloween show, guys are like, hey, what are we going to do? And I was like, well, I already know what I'm doing. I'm going to be a fucking crazy old woman. I'm going to be in a rocking chair, and we're just going to just blaze heavy metal. And I think it's going to be crazy as fuck, and we're going to have a good time. And so we did that, but it went so well, and it was so odd and so, like, disturbing that people after the show were like, dude, like, is this, I know it's Halloween, but is this going to be a band? Because this is badass. And that's kind of how it started 10 years ago. So it took on a life of its own, and here we are having fun with everybody's favorite surrogate metal granny.
I'm so glad that there's more people wanting to, or I should say more bands wanting to do theatrical side, because there's a story being told there with every song, and there's every, you know, like every intermission between the songs, stuff's going on. And I like that, man. I love what you're doing with Granny Four Barrel, actually.
Well, I sure do appreciate that. It's sometimes the old woman needs some encouragement. It's nice to, you know, when you step off the ledge with a project like this, be prepared. Not everybody's going to embrace it. But I've got thick skin, and I've got a sense of humor. I don't take myself too serious about this. It would be great if everyone was like, this is the fucking greatest thing I've ever seen. But there is, you know, there's some adversarial people that not necessarily, they don't dig it. But, hey, we're just doing it because we love it. And eventually, maybe you'll come around. Maybe Granny will bring you into the fold. But, yeah, dude, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, Granny scared me. I was out hunting one day, and I heard her screaming at me, and I walked over, and she said, "You want to come into the bar and eat some hot dogs and some Fago?" And no, nay. She goes, "Get your fat ass back here."
I wouldn't fucking trust her.
No.
As far as I could throw her.
Nay.
Nay, man.
How important was it to make this new single, go into darker waters, creating this own possibly, or did it just end up happening that way?
No, it happened organically, but maybe subliminally, subconsciously, it moved in that direction as well. Because the first few videos and the whole, like, I guess, vision of Granny has been a little more on the humorous side, a little more kitschy, a little more kind of crazy, reckless abandon. But I was like, there's more to this character than this, and let's dig into some more somber, darker themes, because it's not just all fun and games, kids. It's fucking deadly serious. Granny will literally kill you.
Mm-hmm.
So we just kind of wanted it to be like, hey, oh fuck, there's more dimension to this character than just this. And I feel like that was important. And so The Art of Deception was a great song to be able to head down that road.
Yeah, that's why I got the hell of Dodge that day in the woods. I was like, no, Granny, nay, stay back.
Nay, man. I like that. Nay.
How many singles are you wanting to release, or are you planning on releasing a full length or an EP? What's going on down that route?
Yeah, that's a crazy question that I get asked a lot. Well, it's not a crazy question; it's a legitimate question. But my crazy answer is that I don't have an answer other than we've got enough songs for a record. But the management agrees with me too. It's like wait a little while, hold back on that. We can focus and give a lot of attention, single after single, until there's enough of a groundswell where we feel like there's an awareness, and it's like, okay, now we can put this record out. It's a different paradigm these days, putting out singles, spending the time to work the single, getting it up on Spotify. And I feel like I kind of like it because some songs on records seem to get lost, and not by the true fans, because they're going to listen to everything, the same as I do. I listen to all the B-sides because they're my favorite bands. But I just feel like you get more time to devote and give the song its the service that it needs, the respect that it needs. More singles, John, really, and then when it feels right, here's a record. Mm-hmm. Here's a full record. Yep.
And the way things are today, you know this just as well as I do, Terry. You have to put something out there every now and again to stay relevant, and it's crazy because it's not like it used to be back in the 80s and things like that no more.
Yeah, people are consuming massive amounts of music fast. It's like you can't. Yeah, it's such a shame that in a way it's almost disposable. The music, I don't view it that way, and it doesn't feel that way when I'm creating it. It doesn't feel that way when we're trying to promote it. It's not disposable because it's personal. But I see that and I feel it. It's like, oh, wow. What I just explained about a record becoming old news really fast is now happening with a single. Holy fuck, now I got to put out a single every month. It's like, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, yeah. So I'm with you.
Were you a little nervous releasing this single right now, since bands can't tour or do anything right now, hardly?
Well, maybe a little bit of anxiety, but we had this song ready to go pre-pandemic. I mean, just before the pandemic. And then we just didn't, because it was like, oh my God, what's happening in the world? Let's shut everything down. Let's just hold back. So it's just been sitting there. I was like, you know what are we going to do? Like, it's a great theme. You know, the song begs the question, who do you trust? Your leaders, your friends? I was like, let's just put it out. Let's just do it. Roll the dice. And it seems to be doing pretty well. It's been up, a month maybe or something, or 3 weeks maybe. I don't know. It's got like 90-something thousand streams, and it's doing okay. It's doing okay. And it's all organic. It's just people are finding it. It got put on a few different playlists, and it all helps.
All right, Terry, what's impressed or excited you the most about writing these new singles, if anything? Are there anything that you could talk about possibly on these new singles that are sticking out the most for you, possibly, if anything, man?
Well, one of the singles, it's a song called Primal, and it's not out yet, and we're waiting in the wings. I co-wrote that with David Bendeth and Aaron Pauley from Of Mice and Men. And just the fact that I got to write with Aaron Pauley is really exciting for me, and David. And, I've been writing all these past singles with David, but this was a new addition, third person to the collaboration. So that was very exciting for me. And I can't wait to see what's going to happen. And also on the other side, the LeRoi XIII, I've been doing some writing and recording with Will Hunt from Evanescence. And we've got more songs in the works for that project as well. So,
was there a song that you guys were working on that totally ended up sounding different than intended to? I mean, was there one that just took a major turn possibly?
Yes. Well, we'll go back to the song Primal. It's going to come out sometime this year. I'm not sure when. That song had a theme and it had really strong music to it, but we were having issues with the melody line. How are we going to sing this? How is this going to work? It's not feeling right. We know what we want to sing about, but when we brought Aaron Pauley into the mix, it changed a lot of things. I mean, Aaron. So I'm typically just viewed as like I'm an old school kind of classic rock type vocalist. Ronnie Dio, Iron Maiden, Rob Halford, big vibratos, high notes, things like that. The kind of classic Jeff Tate. Mm-hmm. That's kind of in my wheelhouse. But Aaron, you bring Aaron Pauly on board, and he's got those fucking crazy screams. And so he was sending some demos over going, hey, what about this? What about this? And I was like, dude, this is fantastic. So it was inspiring for me to collaborate that way and have a different perspective and say, you know what? We can also add this little vocal kind of awareness and technique to the toolbox, because I've always been like, well, how do these guys scream like that? And I've got a pretty good yell on me. I've got a decent belt, but I've always been puzzled by how these guys actually scream like that. And when Aaron sent over some early demos of how he would sing this, I caught on to what he was doing, and I've made my best attempt at it, and I feel really proud of what I did. But that was inspired by Aaron Pauly. So that song started out one way and turned out another way, all for the better.
Now, you mentioned that you hooked up with longtime producer and collaborator David Bendeth on
Yes.
The Art of Deception. Working with him on this, did he pull something out of you, Terry, that maybe some other producers might not have gotten, possibly?
Yes. The easy answer is absolutely yes. David he's got an incredible work ethic, and he does not settle for anything less than your absolute best performance. And if you're not there to do the work and you're not there to give it your all, he doesn't want to work with you. And I love that work ethic. I was raised that way. It's like, what are we doing? How are we going to get the job done? Whatever it takes. And so I relate to his mentality, his work ethic, and he pushed my limits. I've never realized that I have timing issues. Now, you could play songs that I've created in the past or sang live, or you just listen to any kind of recordings and go, well, no, it sounds good to me. It doesn't sound like he's got a timing. But when you get in there with a microscope and you're actually recording, and you have somebody as good as David, who is so precise and precision with timing, you start to see the cracks in your talents, and you're like, oh. He's like, yeah, you're singing out of time. I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah, because look, and you can see it and you can feel it. And so he made me work hard. And so he brought some things out of me that I didn't think that I had. And I love that.
That is so cool. You talk about an old school musician such as yourself, and you're learning new stuff every single day. So don't tell me, folks, that you can't teach a dog new tricks, because there you go. You learn something new every day, for sure.
Oh, absolutely. I'm learning how to. It's one thing the pandemic taught me, especially when we decided to redo that Ronnie Dio track, Stand Up and Shout.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been singing Dio songs in all the bands I've ever been in over the years, and love singing anything Ronnie Dio, Rainbow, Sabbath, Elf, Dio. And when I got into actually record the song, which is a different animal than live performance, you can skate by on things live. Live is always easy, in my opinion. It's much easier. But when you get in, it's like, okay, we're going to redo a Ronnie Dio. It's like, first of all, you better have your chops together, son, if you're going to try to step up to the plate and even come close to emulating what Ronnie did. And I'm not trying to be Ronnie, but I wanted to do the best service I could to the song. And it taught me a lot about my singing style, about how powerful a singer he really was, and what it takes to be in that wheelhouse. Like, if you're going to compete with that or even try to, you better pay attention to the master, because he's a fucking master.
Oh, yeah.
And I learned a lot. I mean, I sang my ass off to try to do the best that I could, and it just gave me even more respect for a guy like that. So,
working on that Ronnie James Dio cover, Stand Up and Shout, which I'm glad that you guys, like, all the proceeds went to the Sauce charity for Ronnie. How special was that, being able to do a cover of his for this charity?
Well, it really was certainly one of the greatest highlights of my career. The fact that Granny Four Barrel had played a show that Wendy Dio was in attendance, and we played Stand Up and Shout, and that's how the whole thing got started. And that was in 2019, November 2019. Then we got invited to do a Bowl for Ronnie event. Then we got invited to do a Ride for Ronnie event, which was in May, another charity. And Granny Forbury was going to be there. We were going to do like a whole set of DL. It got canceled, and then we had the idea, hey, why not just record a song? She already saw us do Stand Up and Shout, but then we decided, let's just have a collaboration. So it wasn't the original Granny Forbury band; it was new guys, the guys that I told you about. But to have her ultimately at the end, when it was all finished, and we handed it to her and said, "What do you think?" And she said, "Wow, I love this." And the board of how many directors or how many are on the board of directors of the charity said, unanimously, this is great. What can we do to help? I mean, it was a huge honor to have her say that. So, and we had the ability to put the little cancer ribbon on the single art and all those things that come from permission from that camp. So for me to be able to have done that is really, I guess I'd have to say that is one of the greatest moments of my musical career.
Folks, pick that single up. It's actually under the name LeRoi XIII. You want to pick that up for sure.
Yes.
For sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Stream it on Spotify. Get the numbers up every time they send us some royalty checks. We fire them over to the Stand Up and Shout.
I thought this was cool when I was reading on this because the Art of Deception, the song took a few weeks going back and forth on. You guys tried different melodies and phrasings, but man, you drove 5 hours from Syracuse back down to Montclair, New Jersey, just to sing one high note at the end, which only took 2 to 3 takes. I mean, what the hell?
First of all, let that be a lesson to me to, finish my home studio so that I don't have to do that. But nevertheless, I'm willing to do whatever it takes. So when the song was finished in its final stages before it was mixed, I kept listening to it going, man, I really want to sing a high note at the end. Man, there's a great high note that fits at the end. I have to do that. And I just couldn't let it go. And David laughs because he's like, you good, Terry? How are you feeling about your vocals? I'm like, oh, it's great. He's like, yeah, we'll wait for a few days and see what you say. And I always come back, well, what do you think I could maybe would it be cool if I did this? And so I tend to do that a lot. I can't keep my hands off it. But that was, yes, it was worth it for me to do that. Drive 5 hours, sing one high note, and go, fucking, I did it. There we go.
Oh, man. You can be your own worst enemy for certain things.
I know, man. I know. Yeah.
Now, the video for The Art of Deception, that was shot in an old castle on the Hudson River called Greystone Court by master videographers David Brodsky and Allison Wost, and I hope I pronounced her name right. From my good eye visuals. And it was shot in super slow motion. Let's talk about that a little bit. And what were you looking for, or what were you guys trying to work on to make it fit perfect for this song?
Well, first of all, the castle-esque vibe. It's like this grand estate. They call it a castle, but it's an estate. But it had all these. It was very castle-like. It's like all themed rooms. And the primary room that the video was shot in, you can see it's got the Gothic arched windows. It's got these hand-carved wooden ceilings. So it definitely gave a dark vibe to what we were trying to do. But the slow-mo idea, when I was talking to David Brodsky, the videographer, about this, I was like, you know what I like, man? And I had just finished watching the movie 300 with the Spartans. And there was a lot of that fast motion, then slow motion stop. The guy's running, he's running, and he throws a spear, but as soon as he lets the spear go, then it's like slow-mo. And it was like battle scenes, and it just had such an impact to me. I was like, can we shoot this like that? So it has those moments. It's like pausing time. And he's like, oh, yeah, we can absolutely do something like that. So we started to talk about it and played around with some ideas, and that's how we went down that road.
That's a great movie, too.
It is. Oh, I love that movie.
Do you see the band, Terry, still musically growing from the debut album? I know you've been around for a while, but I mean, as far as Granny Four Barrel, do you see it still musically growing?
Absolutely, and the reason is because I have an open mind about music in general, and I don't. Of course, it's always going to be heavy, so I guess there's that boundary around it. But with Granny, it's like you do have a wider. It's like what would you expect from some kind of a band like this? And it's like, well, honestly, anything goes. So as long as it fits, as long as we're it's true, it's honest, and you can feel it, and it's powerful. I think that's the word. I want it to be powerful. Then I'm happy. So I see it just constantly evolving.
What do you hope everyone takes away, or message you hope they hear while listening to any of Granny Four Barrel's music in general? Terry, what do you hope they get from it, man?
Well, I would just like to say that Granny really represents, I think, the best parts of rock and roll. It's freedom of expression, nonconformity, rebellion. Let's not lose that element from rock and roll. That's what makes rock and roll rock and roll. If you start stamping the music that's coming out with all these politically correct parameters of what you can and can't do and what you can and can't sing about, what's appropriate and what's not, well, what the fuck? Like, what? Yeah. What's the point of rock and roll? Yeah. Like, so please don't do that to rock and roll. Please keep your mind open and let rock and roll be as reckless and wild as it wants to be, because it is freedom of expression. So that's what I would like to say.
Now, I know when you were younger, you had a lot of music out and about, but did you have a go-to album when you were younger that just affected you to the point where it allowed you to escape or it gave you inspiration, possibly?
Yeah, I vacillated between Women and Children first, Van Halen, because I'm a huge David Lee Roth fan, and they had a much darker edge to them. They were a lot more savage back in the day. David Lee Roth, just his voice, with those crazy screams, and he had this look, and he was like, he was kind of like sexy, but you were kind of afraid of him. He could steal your girlfriend at a show. He could also kick your ass. There was that part of the Van Halen that I liked. I just loved it. So I played that album. I smoked a lot of weed, and I played that fucking album over and over and over. But I also did the same thing with Highway to Hell. Mm-hmm. And then I got on a huge AC/DC kick that just never stopped to this day. And I mean, I remember one summer my mom was like, hey, I need you to paint the basement. I need you to do all this work downstairs. And I was down because they were going to renovate it and build some rooms and things. And that was one of my side jobs for the summer. And I had my turntable down there. And I swear for like weeks, I just flipped it from side A to side B. And I know every single nuance of Highway to Hell from the opening track to the end of when he does the Mork and Mindy Shazbot Nanu Nanu at the end of it, like all of it. So those two records, I wore those fuckers out.
Folks, you want to get out and support Granny Four Barrel, please pick up the single The Art of Deception. And also, please pick up the Ronnie James Dio cover of Stand Up and Shout under the name of LeRoi XIII. All proceeds go to the Sauce charity. So please do that. So, Terry, man, how can folks stay in touch with you guys? Find out what you're doing, when tour dates are available, all this good stuff. How can you do that, sir?
Yeah, sure. Just a simple enough thing to do. Just go ahead and Google either name that John just mentioned, LeRoi XIII or Granny Four Barrel. And we've got all the social media. I've got websites for both, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. It's all there. This is Terry LeRoi from LeRoi XIII, and you're listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Everybody stick around. You only hear these interviews right here on BODS Mayhem Hour and BODS Mayhem Hour podcast. Please get out and check out Granny Four Barrel, and please also check out LeRoi XIII. You will not be disappointed. Please support these bands. Also, get out and check out our Facebook page. It has our podcast link, YouTube link, and you don't want to miss out on anything, and subscribe to our YouTube link for sure, because we are going to be giving away a lot of stuff. So, Terry, man, I appreciate everything as a fan, what you guys are doing, and tell Granny to stay away from me when I'm hunting, because she scared me, and I don't want to go back hunting no more. Nay.
Thank you for doing such a great job in researching the backstory on all of this, because you have your facts, there. It's thought out. You're not doing this off the cuff. You're planning it out, and I appreciate that.
Terry, I wish you guys nothing but the best of luck, and you always have support here on BODS Mayhem Hour. Thank you for the great interview, man.
Thank you, John. Take care.
You're listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.